Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan was sworn in for his third term in office after winning the presidential runoff election last week. The Mexico regional elections to renew the governorships of the states of Mexico and Coahuila are underway. And in India, authorities work to identify the victims of the worst train accident in the Asian country in this century. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Saturday, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan was sworn in for his third term in office after winning the presidential runoff election last week. The swearing-in ceremony began at 3 p.m. local time at the Grand National Assembly in Ankara, as scheduled nationalist movement party leader Devlet Bahçeli, as acting president of Turkiye Grand National Assembly, presented Erdogan with his official oath of office. The event was attended by heads of states and governments, ministers, and other representatives from more than 70 countries around the world, including Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev, and Armenia's Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan.
Swear on my honor and dignity in the presence of the great nation, Turkish nation and history, that I will protect the existence and independence of the state, the indivisible integrity of the homeland and the nation, the unconditional and unquestionable sovereignty of the nation.
After the swearing-in ceremony, President visited the mausoleum to pay respects to the nation's founder, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. At the mausoleum, the Turkish president laid a wreath at the foot of the monument to the nation's founder. The visit had a special symbolic significance since it conveyed a message of continuation of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk's ideas. The Turkish president also went to the presidential complex in Ankara, where he was accompanied by heads of states and governments and other international delegations. During his speech, Recep Tayyip Erdoğan stressed that his government will continue to produce works and services for Turkey. Erdoğan indicated that his administration will embrace all 85 million citizens, regardless of their political views, origins, creeds, or religion. The 69-year-old president begins his new 5-year term amid a host of domestic challenges ahead, including a battered economy, pressure for the repatriation of millions of Syrian refugees, and the need to rebuild the nation after a devastating earthquake in February that killed 50,000 people and leveled entire cities in the south of the country.
I would like to state that I'm grateful to God, for He has blessed us with the chance of serving Turkey and the Turkish nation for 5 more years. With their votes, with their kindness and support, my nation, all members of my nation, I would like to extend my gratitude to each and every one of them.
President Erdogan highlighted that in this new period, the Turkish government should learn from mistakes they committed in the past in order to build a better future.
From the past, from the mistakes of the past, we should draw lessons and be exerting efforts to build the future. In the post-election period, we have always made our accounts and have had a tradition to renew itself, to update itself, tackling our mistakes, our shortcomings, further strengthening what we have been resilient about. We have made it to this very day, and following every election we opened a new page.
On Saturday, hours after being sworn in for his third term in office, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan presented his new cabinet. Comprised of 18 members, in the new cabinet stands out the name of Mehmet Şimşek as finance minister, a position he held between 2009 and 2015, and will have ahead of him the ingenious task of cleaning up the battered Turkish economy and stabilizing the lira, which has lost 20% of its value in a year and 85% since the economist left office. Another striking change is the appointment of Hakan Fidan, head of the Turkish Secret Services since 2015, as foreign minister, replacing Mevlut Cavusoglu in office since the same year. Only 2 ministers remain in office, including the health minister, Fahrettin Koca, popular for his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. The only woman in the cabinet will be the Minister of Family and Labor, Mahinur Özdemir. Let's take a short break now. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the South. More than 15 million Mexican voters cast their ballots on Sunday to renew the governorships of the states of Mexico and Coahuila. According to the National Electoral Institute, the two states opened their polling stations at 8 o'clock in the morning to receive voters and are expected to close at 6 o'clock in the afternoon local time to count the votes. According to the electoral entity, Mexicans living abroad will have 2 days of voting, online or in person, at the Mexican consulates in the cities of Chicago, Dallas, and Los Angeles, while in Canada they will be able to vote in Montreal. These elections are key for the country's political organizations in view of the 2024 elections, in which President and the two chambers of the Federal Congress will be renewed. In Cuba, the Ministry of Public Health reported that 45 people remain injured after a traffic accident occurred on the Havana-Melena Highway, which caused the death of 4 people. The accident occurred on Saturday in the municipality of Arroyo Naranjo when the vehicle belonging to the National Bus Company overturned south of Havana. Of the injured, 5 are in serious conditions and 40 are in care. In all cases, the patients are being attended by multidisciplinary teams and their relatives are being kept informed. In addition, the authorities informed that the resources for medical care in each of the institutions are guaranteed. On Friday, Leonidas Issa, one of the most charismatic leaders of the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador, withdrew his candidacy from the early presidential elections to be held on August. During a press conference, Jairo Cartincos, CONAI president for the coastal region, said that the decision to withdraw Issa's candidacy was made because there are no favorable conditions for the indigenous peoples to present their own candidate. Moreover, Issa explained that there were also other disagreements with the Pachacutic Party, since the list of candidates for Congress did not include social leaders capable of guaranteeing adequate representation of grassroots organizations. By renouncing his presidential candidacy, Issa effectively leaves the way open for the presidential binomial of the Citizens Revolution, which is a political group led by former President Rafael Correa, to become the only leftist option in the upcoming elections. In Argentina, June 3rd marked the 8th anniversary of the first Ni Una Menos March, the feminist movement that was born in 2015 after the femicide of Chiara Páez, a 14-year-old teenager in the province of Santa Fe. Feminist collectives from all Argentine provinces are mobilizing on the weekend to commemorate the 8 years of the Ni Una Menos March, with demands for the femicides that remain unpunished in different districts and to speak out against gender violence. The Observatory of Gender Violence, Ahora que si nos ven, assures that since the appearance of the movement Ni Una Menos, an average of 1 femicide took place every 31 hours in all Argentina, according to a report prepared by the feminist organization. Russian authorities report that at least 3 civilians were killed by Ukrainian bombings in Belgorod province. According to local sources, heavy bombings were launched on Saturday by Kiev forces against several settlements located in the Russian province of Belgorod, bordering Ukraine. It was also reported that about 15 other people were wounded as a result of the bombings and are currently being treated in hospitals. The shell fragments also damaged several houses, infrastructures, a gas pipeline, and a power line. In some cities, the civilian population remains without water and electricity supply or telephone connection. Operational and emergency services are on site repairing the damage left by the attack. Russia's Security Council prepared measures against Western sanctions. The head of the Security Council and the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, stressed the day before at a meeting with the permanent members of the organizations that they are focusing their efforts on developing measures to block the efforts of Western countries to destabilize the situation in the country. Although many countries have condemned the special military operation that Russia launched in Ukraine in February 2022, the National Security Council is planning to continue working on strategies to circumvent any kind of blockade by creating new economic alliances to prevent a crisis in the nation. Tens of thousands of citizens, according to media reports, surrounded the Serbian presidency to protest against President Alexander Vučić in a new demonstration under the slogan "Serbia against violence." The demonstration, called by opposition parties, takes place 1 month after two shootings left 18 dead, 9 of them children, in a school, and started with a minute of silence to commemorate the victims. Citizens chant slogans such as "Go away Vučić" or "You are finished," and announced that they will continue the protest until their demands are met. This is the fifth mass protest of a wave of indignation unleashed by the two shootings.
Personally, I feel ashamed for everything that is happening, everything I see and hear. When most people in Serbia feel ashamed, only then will something change. I don't expect shame from politicians or those who work in media or public offices. They are shameless.
I'm here for all of us, especially my children, so they don't need to protest, but live and work in this country like they should as normal people, so that we don't flee this country. I think we all had enough.
If nothing else, we are here together, getting liberated. We are free, and a change is possible, one step at a time.
teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat, dial 461, and enjoy Latin American alternative broadcasts. One functional break, we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In India on Sunday, authorities are working to identify the victims of the worst train accident in the Asian country in this century. In the last report, the death toll has been reduced to 275, while the number of injured has risen to 1,175. So far, 88 bodies have been identified, while the Southeastern Division of Indian Railroads has been running special trains for families to reach Balasore in the eastern state of Odisha, site of the accident, and where bodies are being held in hospitals and even in a school. Following rescue works at the accident site, the authorities also made use of internet to publish photographs of some unidentified deceased, many of them taken at the accident scene, as well as lists of injured under treatment. India's Railroad Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw said on Sunday that the triple train crash was caused by a change in the electronic interlocking, that is, a signaling fault. The official added that those responsible have already been pinpointed as part of the investigation. Meanwhile, at the accident site, workers removed the remains of the crash involving 2 passenger trains and 1 of goods. On Sunday, China's Defense Minister Li Shangfu stated the reasons why a Chinese warship got in the way of a U.S. destroyer and a Canadian frigate transiting the Taiwan Strait. He did so during his speech at the Singapore Security Forum.
We must fully comply with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. This is what we must adhere to. There will be no problems with freedom of navigation and innocent passage. The key is to prevent attempts to exercise navigational hegemony in the name of freedom of navigation.
The same way, the Chinese minister pointed out that the U.S. ships had no business being in Chinese territorial waters and urged the nations responsible for the incursion to mind their own business.
To really avoid these incidents, in addition to making rules that express what to do as a last resort, the best way is that warships and fighter planes of third countries do not perform actions of approach to the areas bordering the territorial sea and airspace of a nation. What is the point of going there? What does it have to do directly with your interests? To put it our way, mind your own business and take good care of your own people.
Tens of thousands of Israelis gathered on Saturday to protest judicial overhaul plans by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's ruling coalition, the most hardline in Israel's history. The weekly protests, now in their 22nd week, continued despite Netanyahu's March announcement that the controversial legal proposals will be put on hold. Several rallies were held across Israel, with the main protest drawing tens of thousands in the central city of Tel Aviv. Protesters waved Israel's flags, lit torches, and beat drums. The plan would weaken the judiciary and limit judicial oversight on law and government decisions, which critics say poses a direct threat to civil rights and the rights of minorities and marginalized groups. Protests have continued even though the government and the opposition are in talks to reach a compromise on the plan. The government of Syria denounced the continued looting of its natural wealth by the U.S. forces illegally present in the northeast of the country. Activists in the town of Al-Jarubiyah reported that a caravan of 45 tanker trucks loaded with hundreds of tons of oil stolen from the fields in Al-Jazeera region left for northern Iraq through the illegal Al-Mahmudiyya crossing. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and expatriates described these actions as banditry that violates the international humanitarian law and impoverishes the Syrian people and prolongs their suffering. It also demanded the U.S. administration to stop this looting, which has caused losses estimated at almost 111 billion US dollars. They also called for compensation to be paid to the Syrian people. We have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.